Please take the opportunity to check the demo scheduled in the break, and please try to get ideas for automation relevant to your business challenges.
Thank you and hello everybody. My name is Andre. I'm here together with Ciprian, and we're here to show you one of our most popular showcases today. This is one showcase that we have in the Immersion Lab, and it's very, very popular for good reason. Today, we are going to show you our intelligent invoicing showcase. And the reason why it's popular is because it's one of the most commonly automated processes in the RPA industry, and for good reason. It involves a large amount of manual work, so people just looking, staring at documents and copying, pasting them, and then moving them through multiple applications. Manual work comes with errors, comes with delayed SLAs, and with headaches for everyone. And on top of everything, because humans are doing the actions, they're also prone to errors. Now, the solution we came up with for this kind of challenge is we're using Uipath robots, of course, but we've added a lot of AI technology to help support the RPA implementation. So we're using intelligent ABI activities to classify the documents. We're using Microsoft OCR to read, scan photos. We're using Action Center to validate, so we have humans in the loop in this process, and we're using everything is focused, is put in beautifully in our document understanding framework. Afterwards, once we have the data and we work with the data, it's all put into SAP. Now, some of the benefits are obvious, so we get reduced processing times because robots are doing the actions are done very, very quickly. Because robots always follow the workflow, you have a low exception rate and increased accuracy. And because robots also log every action that they take, you have very high traceability. Now, enough of slides. I only have this one slide, so let's move on into the showcase directly. Now, what you can see right here, this is a virtual machine. And on this virtual machine sits a unattended robot. Now, in normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to see this unattended robot because it would sit on a virtual machine. But we've made an exception just for this showcase. What you're looking at are the two documents that we are going to process. So we have one invoice here. This is a digital invoice, so the text is selectable. This is the kind of invoice you would expect from a digitally inclined company. And on the right over here is a photo of a receipt. So none of the text is selectable. This is just a photo, and it's not a particularly good quality one. It's a normal photo that you would take with a smartphone, right? And this here is our Uipath Assistant. This is where we can start robots from. And as you can see, one robot can do multiple processes. I'm just going to start this process manually. In a production environment, this would be triggered by an event or scheduled or put in a queue in any way that would be relevant for your process and for your applications. Now, what the robot is doing is checking to see if we have any documents in a folder or in email. And it did find a couple of documents. And it's asking me, okay, so how do you want to process them, attended or unattended? And we have two options here. In attended mode, we would need another person on another computer running another robot, so an attended robot, to validate the data. But because we only have one computer, today we are going to use unattended mode. And this means that all the validation will happen in the cloud in our Action Center in Uipath Orchestrator. Now, I started the robot, and the robot is working right now. Now, you can see these small little yellow pop-ups indicating what it's doing. But let me tell you exactly what it's doing. So it's doing three main steps. First, it's looking at the documents and it's classifying them. It's using an ABI activity to classify the documents into either an invoice or a receipt. Once the documents are classified, it's checking to see if they need OCR. So if it's a scanned photo or a scanned document, any kind of a photo, it uses Microsoft OCR to extract all of the data in the document so that we can process it later. Once the data is extracted, so first classified, then we use OCR. The next step is to use our own proprietary machine learning extractor hosted in AI Fabric to get only the relevant data that we need from both documents and organize it in an easy to understand fashion for our human validators. Now, once all of these steps are completed, what happens is the robot switches to another process and builds 2 automation tasks in UiPath Orchestrator so that a human can validate the data that was extracted from these documents. And this is how it looks like. This is our Action Center in UiPath Orchestrator. Now, all I have to do is refresh my task, and you can see that I have a couple of validation tasks. I have to look at them and see. And Action Center is hosted in Orchestrator. Now I have an admin and I can see multiple functions of UiPath Orchestrator, but according to your company's requirements, you can just have users see only the Action Center. Now I can open the task that I have right here, obviously assign it to myself. You can automate this. You can automate the assigning process also. And you can see this here is our validation station. It shows the document on the right and fields that were extracted on the left. And you can see that every time I click a field, you will see that it highlights the relevant information that was extracted over here. So it's really easy to see what was extracted, wasn't extracted, and really easy to check. So a human wouldn't have to search the document to see where the data was extracted from. And we can see here that the shipping address wasn't extracted. So let's see how we can extract it real easy. I would just use our selector tool, select everything, mark them as tokens, and add them in the shipping address. And that's it. The shipping address was added, and I don't need to copy and paste. I don't need to search the document. I need to type anything. I don't need to make sure that I didn't put in a typo or anything like that. I can check the line items in the invoice and then save and close. And that's it. My first validation task is done. Let's look at the next one. So the receipt. Again, I'm going to assign it to myself. If you're a person with admin privileges, you can assign it to someone else. Currently, I don't have anyone working for me, so I can't assign it to anyone else. And the same thing, I can click on the fields and see that everything is highlighted, even though this is scanned photo, right? So the fields are not natively selectable. And you can see here on the left with the red over here, this is a confidence score. This shows you how confident the machine learning algorithm is that it extracted the correct information from the document. And you can use this as an indicator for the validator or as a trigger for the validation station. So if the confidence level is above a threshold that you are comfortable with, you can have the validation not appear at all and say the robot just did its job perfectly. We don't need a validator in the loop. And you can program this according to your requirements. Now, looking at this real quickly, we can see that the phone number was extracted, but we don't really have a phone number on our receipt. This is just a serial number of the receipt. So I can just mark it as missing and go through the rest of the fields. I can check to see if the line items are correct. Again, whatever I'm looking at is highlighted in the documents and everything is correct. Continue and save. Now I have another invoice just to make sure that this showcase runs smoothly. I am just going to approve this as well. And now that all the tasks were validated, what happens is UiPath Orchestrator triggers the UiPath robot in the background, so the unattended robot, to start another process that sits on this machine. And what it's doing is extracting the data and putting them into our ERP of choice. Now, in this case, we have two choices. One is we have our own mock ERP, which you'll see in a minute. And this will be like a general web platform, nothing complicated, just to show that we can do UI and automation with any ERP. And the other, so the invoice, will be entered into SAP. And again, this will be simple UI automation, nothing complicated, but this is just so that you will be able to see what exactly the robot will be doing. Now, all the tasks have been validated. Proceeding to the next step. And what happens, the reason that the robot hasn't started yet is because the values of the documents are above a certain threshold. So what happens is we need manager approval to process them further. So this is to simulate a corporate environment, right? So according to the value of the document that we are processing, we would need approval or not. And this is similar to what we did before with the validation station. Instead, this is a simple approval task. This is not as complicated as a validation station. And I, as an approver, as a manager approver, I can't really edit the data. I can just look through them and approve. And I'll do the rest for all of them. Assign to myself and approve. Now, once all of the tasks have been approved, the robot will pick up. It'll see that the validations, that the items were validated and approved by higher management. It'll open SAP and run through the automation to actually enter the data that was extracted from the invoice into SAP. And it's simple UI automation. Now, while this is running, and this is the end of our showcase, I would like to remind everybody that you can go into our booth and go into the chat and ask any questions that you have along this demo, or any questions in general that you have around UiPath and robots and automation and hyper automation. And we will be very happy to help. Now, as you're looking, we've slowed this down a bit so that I can talk while it's going on, and it just doesn't go on instantly. But in a production environment, you might want to do API integration or PAPI. And this would have been done in a fraction of a second without anyone actually knowing what was going on. But for the purpose of the showcase, we wanted to make this visual. Now, that's it. The robot just closed SAP and is going to close the rest of the items. And that concludes my showcase for today. Thank you so much for joining, and please remember to enter any questions into the chat. Take care.